absolutely grinds my gears.
Because it is obviously a really big problem.
Things can get stolen and you don't know where to turn to.
I just can't imagine that someone is able to do something like that. It's just...
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sketchwave, our weekly show where we talk all things Procreate digital art because we are tutors here on YouTube in the Procreate space. Today I'm joined by my co-host, the one and only James Julier, and we are joined by a special guest today, Kay from the Funk It Procreate channel. Kay, how are you? Thank you for joining us for today's episode.
Very well, thank you. I'm just absolutely amazed that I'm here with two Procreate giants. So I'm a bit starstruck, I have to say.
Appreciate the comment. That's more directed at James because he's got his plaque in the background. I've got a couple of green plants at the minute, but we'll get there. James, how's your week been, mate, since we last spoke?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. School started, kids have been back at school, so I've been catching up with some things, yeah. So it's been all good. Mainly just housework, honestly. But how about yourself? You had a good week?
Yeah, good week. Where we've moved to, this is very village kind of life, where we've moved to, there was an apple pie fair in the green just right next to the house and next to the pub. So we were pottering around the apple pie fair, which that's the second time I've actually been able to say it properly, but yeah, pottering around there, eating loads of pie, drinking beer. Nice. It was great. It was awesome. But then it started to rain, and this is one thing I'm most proud of. Daisy, my golden retriever, she won second place in the Waggiest Tail competition. Well, so go. I was extremely proud. So great weekend. As always, guys, we are going to look through our previous tutorials. And so as always, there's going to be links in the description down below to the chapters if you want to skip ahead to the main topic that we're going to talk about today, which is the frustration that we have with the online community sometimes of people thinking that they can steal content creators' content and upload it for themselves and make a bucket load of cash off of your hard work. But we'll get to that anyway. Let's take a look at the hard work we've done this week. So we always look back on our previous tutorials that we've released on our channels. First in the doc is mine, and it is a saying that I live by, really, and it quite literally takes effect every single day. It's a coffee themed design this week, and I'll start working when the coffee does. Quite a kind of simple, really, kind of design. I wanted that kind of cutesy kind of lettering kind of effect, which the Inca brush can give you. It's got that little bit of grain in it, that's got a little bit of texture to it, but creating the whole general sort of shape of a coffee cup, the swirl of the cream potentially on the top there, and obviously a coffee bean in the background. Quite a simple one, really. It's kind of followed suit, as I've mentioned a couple of times on the show lately, in terms of being busy and everything that's been going on with decorating and moving, etc., that I needed something again to wrap up a collection of kind of the more simple kind of ones. And I'll be moving to a landscape which is coming up next week, or this week at the time of recording. So I'm glad to be sort of getting myself back into a bit of a larger project again. But this one, I hoped it was going to sort of resonate with a lot of people. James, I know you're a coffee drinker as well, and you have the same kind of philosophy. Kate, do you drink coffee as well?
Yeah, just a bit. I love coffee. Oh, God.
Anyone who says just a bit is hiding something.
Now.
Yeah, I'm at a point where I can have two, first thing in the morning and about 2:30. Any later than 2:30, I'm laying in bed, just like overthinking the whole night through, and just I've got a bit of editing to do. Maybe I could do that, and before I know it, it's like 1:30, 2:00. So yeah, a bit of a simple one this week, but I had fun with it. And I also played around with the inverse of this in terms of making the text kind of the brown sort of orangey tones instead. But this one actually I felt suited a little bit more because it had a little bit more contrast.
What's the texture brush on that? What kind of textures did you use?
Oh, why do you do this to me? The text was the Inca brush, and likewise the pattern inside, and you've gone and absolutely done me here. I cannot remember. I can't remember. You'll have to go and watch the tutorial if you're interested in the textures. I'm talking to James now.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, I can't remember, unfortunately.
Nice,
but we'll
anyway,
move on from this one. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll move on to James. This tutorial design absolutely summarizes what a James Julier tutorial looks like, because I've said it multiple times about the sky. But as always, go on, talk us through your latest tutorial.
I think I suffer a little bit this week of being pushed a little bit for time as well. So it was a little bit of a fallback on what I'm familiar with, I suppose. Yeah, I think I've had COVID for a few days. I'm all right now, but yeah,
Really?
in terms of the kids going back, I've also been under the weather. So I fell back on something that was familiar territory, but I really enjoyed doing it, and it's something I've not done for a little while. Because it was something I did to death maybe a couple of years ago. I did so many of these kind of sunsets that I thought I would revisit it, and I thought I would find it easier than I did, but I did struggle through it a little bit, but we got there. The one thing that I'm going to have to correct on the Patreon extended version was the reflection in the water. Now, you've actually got a copy of the one that I slightly amended. Like in the actual tutorial, the reflection of the tree was slightly offset because I'd set the horizon point at the wrong. Anyway, bit too technical, really. But yeah, so I looked back at that after I'd finished. And I was like, damn, I've done that bit wrong. So I amended it for that version that we're looking at for the sake of the thumbnail. But I'm going to have to truly correct that over at the extended version. I hate having to use my
So are you
extended
saying the
version.
reflection shadow
Yeah.
needs to be slightly off to the left, is it, to follow the sun
Well,
direction?
I set the whole, rather than doing what I should have done is the background and took the whole top section and reflected that for the background, but the tree is a lot closer. So the reflection start point from the tree should start a lot lower down than the horizon line. And because I did the tree on the, and took the entirety of the top section, including the tree, and reflected it, it meant that the tree wasn't reflecting at the correct point, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, gotcha.
It was something I should know better on, but it kind of got away with it. But something that, yeah, I'm looking at now, thinking, damn, I've not done one with those kind of reflections for a while. I do know better than that. So anyway, it happens to us all, doesn't it? We all make mistakes. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing something. It can always happen. So.
It's the worst as well when you see it and you've like finished recording and you're like, oh no, because that's like, and especially if it's not like right at the end and it's like 20 minutes into a 40-minute tutorial, you can't really correct it. Have you ever gone back into a video and added like a segment at the end, say, this is my correction, by the way? No.
I figure
the way you said that, I was so proud. But no, absolutely not.
I figure if I don't notice it while I'm doing it, and it's only when I look back at it I notice it, then I think it's probably okay. If it's not obvious while you're creating, then it's probably a subtle mistake anyway. So just leave it in. And I deal with it in the comments, and people love to leave comments about how you've done things wrong anyway. So it just helps with the algorithm side of stuff, doesn't it? So.
It does. And we'll sort of wrap up this sort of section here by looking at Kay's latest tutorial. Kay, talk us through your latest tutorial. And where is this? Is this on YouTube or is this on your Patreon?
This is on Patreon.
Yeah. Awesome.
I was actually on holiday when I recorded this.
So, cool.
I was in Cyprus.
Very nice.
And I thought, well, I knew I had it planned before I went to Cyprus, but I thought I want something cocktaily, so that's where the inspiration came from, a cocktail, basically. I'm really into teals at the moment, and pinks. So I try to kind of use the teal and get away from the pink a little bit. So I introduce some oranges and reds with a little splash of like green for the leaves. So that was basically where my inspiration comes from, my holiday. So I thought, let's just do a nice juicy cocktail.
Very nice.
And you can ask me what brushes I use.
What brushes did you use, Kay?
So I actually used a glass stack that I created for the glass. I used my grainy pen, and I also used soft brush and the tapered smooth.
Very nice.
Those two are Procreate brushes.
Well, at least some of us are prepared for this show. If I was to do a design of mine based on a holiday drink, it would be a Fanta lemon and vodka. That's the one. That's always the vibe. James, what would yours be?
What my holiday drink? Oh, I've not been anywhere exotic for a while. I've been caravanning around England, so it'd just be I don't even know. I don't drink a lot, to be honest. I probably would do if I was sat around a pool. The environment would inspire it, but when I'm just sat in a caravan, it doesn't seem so glamorous to bother, really. So a cup of tea. There you go.
A cup of tea. Right,
I'm intrigued, Kay. How did you manage to record your tutorial on a holiday? What was your setup? How did you figure that out?
I took all of my equipment with me in the suitcase. I found a nice table at the home that we were staying in. I set up my arm, and then I had the aircon on because it was very hot. So I just took my bits and pieces with me on holiday. So I did
very good.
Last year. I did a tutorial in Crete as well. So I think wherever I go on holiday, I want to record a tutorial.
There you go. It's commitment.
Wow, you're so much more bold than I. The thought of doing that, it gives me just stresses me out. Just being like, what if there's an aircon unit that's too loud, or what if I can't get the lighting correct, or how many lights do I need to bring with me? I'd have to take a whole second suitcase and insure it like crazy just to take all this with me. It's like NASA in here sometimes, but that freaks me out a little bit. James, would you ever do something like that? Take it away with you when you go?
Probably, merely out of desperation because I left things too late and I haven't organised. I'd probably think, damn, I'm going to have to take it all with me. It's the kind of thing I would do, but I wouldn't choose to do it. I think I'd probably get in trouble if I took my stuff with me and tried to say I need to carry on working while on holiday. But yeah, it's the kind of thing I would do if I hadn't done it quite when I should have done. But I can see the appeal in it. I think while we're on holiday, you can certainly feel inspired by the change of scenery, can't you, and things around you. So yeah, depends on the circumstances.
Okay, talk us through though your setup though, because before we started the recording, you had a DJI mic. So talk us through all of the setup, because we love comparing the setups. Everybody's that will potentially get on the show as well to just talk through cameras and mics, etc.
Well,
talk us through it.
I just used my iPhone. It's a iPhone 13 Max Pro Max. And I just plugged this in. I use this as a microphone. I've got a cheap arm that I got from Amazon, top down, and basically that's it. So this was amazing. The DJI mic was a game changer for me because my very early tutorials were just the iPhone, and you can really tell the difference. So I'm glad I invested in a microphone.
I've been looking at those quite a lot because their noise cancellation is really good. So just eliminating anything else going on in the background, and the fact that it's obviously close to you and not have to deal potentially with more room echo as well. So there's definitely something I'm looking into to potentially is the mic part of it. Talk us through though the second part of your process there is the editing part. Is that all done on your phone as well? Because we can do it quite easily now with LumaFusion.
Yeah, well, no, I send it all over to the iPad, and I use KineMaster. I think that's how you pronounce it. So I use KineMaster to edit my tutorials, and I do have to say that sometimes the edit takes a lot longer than the actual tutorials.
Definitely,
always.
Yeah, so that isn't a fun process. It kind of gets a little bit tedious, but I just pop on my headphones and I just get in the zone and I just get it done. Yeah, I have contemplated keeping the bloopers and just do a compilation of all my swear words that I cut out, obviously. I think that would be quite a fun thing to do.
I've thought about doing exactly that, but the problem with mine is I refer to myself in advance. So if I make a mistake, I'll go, Joel, because most of the time I've sped the playback up on my computer and I'm not really paying attention. But if I hear Joe, I'll go, well, what was that? And then I hear it and then I instruct myself. I say, Joel, go back to the point where you created the new layer and go from there. So mine would just be weird, and out of context of just me talking to myself in the future, being like, you made a mistake, let's fix it, let's go back. But we thought about doing that with this show. But luckily, lately, we haven't necessarily had any content to do any bloopers with or outtakes, really. Everybody asked for it. Now. In the last episode, we actually did discuss certain elements of would people like to see kind of a more BTS style view to this, where we keep a few of the topics that we talk about off air in terms of the recording and stuff. And a lot of people in the comments, it was really good feedback to hear of people saying, no, we actually like the fact that you keep it pretty PG and that the extra content would work for certain people. So it was really interesting to hear that. And not that, swearing, etc. is very necessary, but these moments happen in recordings and some people find them hilarious. I find it hilarious in some of the editing work that I do for other content, and I hear their bloopers out of context and I go, that is hilarious. I've cried with laughter at hearing some bloopers and them just swearing at each other and being like, what is going on? And you're just there as an audience member. It's just hilarious. But again, I'll leave links to Kay's tutorial in the description down below so we can so people can take a look at that over on your Patreon. Just talking about that quickly, are you currently prioritizing Patreon then over YouTube at the minute?
Yes. So the tail end of last year, I had quite a lot of hospital appointments and had some surgeries. So I did kind of fall behind with YouTube, and a good chunk of this year I've spent in hospital as well. So I am on track now. So
Good.
I'm focusing on my Patreons, but YouTube is going to be coming back again soon, very soon. Awesome. So watch this space.
It is a huge workload. The workload doesn't sort of get much justice, really. It's a huge amount of work to keep up multiple pieces of content across multiple platforms, and the responsibility, you kind of feel the weight of that responsibility from your Patreon alone sometimes can be quite overwhelming. But it's cool that you're prioritizing that to at least keep curating the content. And of course, we hope that health-wise, everything continues to be on the upward and on the better.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about something, though, that absolutely grinds my gears. And this is actually something we've seen quite a lot. And I've seen numerous times over the years of doing all this content creation for Procreate. There are sometimes certain people will, without a lack of a word, they will steal content, whether it be brushes or textures or whatever it may be, and decide to re-upload them onto their websites and sell them without any attribution, I think the word is, or monetization for the original creator. One person I've actually seen this happen to multiple times in this space is actually Flo, and I actually got a chance to catch up with Flo this week to give her thoughts and feelings on the topic, because it is something that has plagued her over the years. So let's just cut to that conversation with Flo. Flo, thank you so much for joining us on the Sketchwave. I really appreciate you getting involved with this particular topic, because when me and James were sitting down working out our kind of plan for the episode, and the concept was about brushes being stolen and content in general being stolen, my mind immediately jumped back to a few sort of stories that I've seen you share on Instagram over the years of people taking your brushes and content and re-uploading it onto other websites. Talk us through sort of the experiences you've had with people kind of, stealing content of yours.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me in your show, of course. And yeah, over the years, I've had people stealing my content, especially like big brush packs that were just put on some website and sold for like really cheap. So yeah, I'm really happy that usually I don't find these things myself. I'm not browsing these like shady websites that sell my brushes, but usually it's the followers, and I have like lots of eyes and ears out there, and usually it's the followers that find these things and notify me about it. So I'm really grateful for that, because otherwise I just would be completely in the dark probably. So I'm happy to have everyone looking out for that and telling me about it. And yeah, it's so weird to see your own, like your own visuals, your own product in a totally different website. But it also happened on Etsy, for instance. On Etsy, there are a lot of people just reselling brushes, not just from me, but other creators as well. So yeah, it's hard to really stop it, I think. But it helps to have that many eyes out there that help me with that, and to immediately put it to a stop. But I think it's hard to protect yourself from something like that.
Definitely. That's the thing, that we don't know of all the websites. They can pop up and come out of nowhere and be already selling like multiple packs
Yeah.
very quickly. And to have, we've actually spoke about this already, about the community side of it, and having your, like say, your ears and eyes out there in your community. We actually said, what are the things you can do to protect yourself? And I think your community is actually a vital part of that. As you just said, is, if somebody sees something on a website that they just think, I'm not sure I've seen Flow on that website, or anybody else, reach out to those creators, please, because it helps us
Definitely.
a massive amount to say, are you actually selling on this website? And then the creator can go and act upon it. The thing is as well, I think, and I want to get your thoughts on it, you spend so much time crafting the brushes or crafting whatever it may be that they've taken, and then the emotional side of it, of them just ripping it, not having put any of that work in. Talk me through sort of how it makes you feel when you see that content, because I've already said at the beginning of this entire segment, it grinds my gears immensely. It infuriates me that it's like inhumane almost, in a way that
Yeah.
you just snatch something.
Yeah, it hurts to see something like that, but at the same time, I'm just baffled that people, I just can't imagine that someone is able to do something like that. It's just, I don't know. I can't imagine being able to live with yourself, just
Mm.
buying something from a creator and then reselling it at a really low price and gaining profit from it. I, yeah, it's something that I wouldn't be able to do as a human being. But yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, yeah, it's just crazy. Yeah,
That's the
but
thing, isn't it? And I can, you can't even get your head around it, can you?
yeah,
Like the thought, my analogy I used before is, if you walked into a shop and you saw something that someone had spent, say, 12 hours curating, if that's how long, say, the brush pack took to make, if not longer, if you saw someone had made something for 12 hours, let's say it was the best cake you'd ever seen, and a slice was £5, you wouldn't go in and just snatch it and then sell it on to somebody else. There's a level of, because it's on the web and it's on the internet, that people can
yeah,
hide behind veils almost.
yeah, and people feel like it's not, yeah. Yeah, you're right. They hide behind their veils, and they also don't feel like there's a person behind the product that someone has made that and put a lot of time and effort into it. So I think that is also a factor. And yeah, they are anonymous. They can just once I have found them, they can just take it off, and then they'll rip someone else's brush
Yeah.
packs and sell those. So it's really hard. And but I try to not put too much energy into it. Actually, I once I am notified of something happening like that, then of course I take action. But I try to not get too emotional about it, because that, yeah, I rather focus on positivity. And I also think that the people that buy those brush packs are not my following. Those are probably people just looking out for cheap stuff or something. And I don't, I think my followers would be buying brush packs directly from me. So yeah, it doesn't hurt me that much. I think I'm, yeah, because
I
those
love that.
are,
I love focusing, that you focus on the positive. 'Cause you'll know more than anyone. Like the comments on a video, for example, you can magnify one negative comment
yeah,
and look beyond the thousands of really positive ones, and for some reason that sticks with you for the rest of your day. For some reason, you go,
yeah.
"God, am I really struggling, or am I behind? Whatever it may be," and you can just really
Depending on how
magnify
your
it.
day has been
Oh
so
yeah,
far, if you're having a rough day and you get a comment like that, then it can really, yeah, it can
if I
really
wake
stick
up
with you. Yeah.
in the morning before a coffee and I've read a comment like that, that's when it sticks with me for the rest of the
Yeah.
day. You just got to wait for the coffee to kick in. You're like, life's good, actually. Life's not that bad.
Yeah.
So just from your point of view then, your a lot of your content, am I right in saying, is now directly only available through your website?
Through my website and through Gumroad and Design Cuts. I think my followers probably know on which channels I sell my brush packs. And it's pretty obvious in my newsletter and on my YouTube channel and on Instagram. So yeah, if they find it anywhere else, then it's not from me. And usually when something sounds too good to be true, usually it is. Unless it's in my newsletter or on my social media channels and I have a great deal, then it's real. But if you find it somewhere else, then probably it isn't.
Yeah, you've got to go direct to source, guys. If like for me, it's always, if you see something, make sure you just go to the link in the Instagram bio. Most of the time, that's either a link tree or a link to a website, and that's the best place to go and triple check, because it's not so much just the fact that it might be uploaded on a different website, and so much the creator is not going to benefit from the purchase as such. It's also a matter of security as well, because the consumer is buying from a website that we haven't vetted ourselves, or we're not happy and secure with that process. It could be a slightly shady website and your details be stolen. So it's also a matter of, it's a bit of a trade-off, I guess, isn't it? If your brush pack is say £20 or $20 or euros, then it's down to 3 or 2. What's the trade-off? There's always a catch. You've always got to think to yourself, what's the catch here? Why is this so cheap? Sort of thing. I don't get the humanity side of it, and that's the biggest thing for me. So I'm glad you've got some advice though there in terms of direct to source, and you mentioned the sort of 3 websites that you're on primarily. I will leave links in the description down below to all of Flo's content and also the brush stores as well, so you can get it directly from source. Flo, thank you so much for joining us on this topic. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we can have you on a future episode as well. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, who knows? We'll be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So it was really interesting to hear Flo's point of view, because again, being so big in the space, she's got a lot of content as well that she gives away, brushes and so on. So it's good to hear from her point of view how she goes about protecting herself and the advice that she's got for consumers as well. Let's go through that ourselves as well. I sell a few brushes on Gumroad as well. Kay, you provide a lot of your content, correct, through Gumroad as well?
Yeah, so I haven't really got anything in place other than like protection really with my brushes, other than actually just kind of having my name and my picture where I create the brushes. But to be honest, I haven't even really given it that much thought until this question came up, and I was like, actually, maybe I need to kind of like a disclaimer somewhere, or because it is obviously a really big problem. It's your time. Time's precious, and it's kind of bad form. Maybe someone taking your stuff and selling it somewhere else. So just using reputable websites and going to the creator directly, I think, is probably a really good idea.
Absolutely.
I think I might actually start kind of like having a little think about protecting my bits and pieces. But yeah.
This conversation came about because the topic for today, because of Kristen. Now, Kristen runs the Procreate for Beginners Facebook group, obviously on Facebook, massive community over there as well. So she's got hands full. And she actually tagged us in the comments of a person's Luca Larson's post, which actually refers to the fact that they have created multiple pieces of content and it has been stolen and uploaded onto a different website, and they are selling, I believe here I'm seeing 37 of their pieces of intellectual property, so just pieces of content that they're selling on their marketplace, and they're not even the only person to fall victim to it on this site. And it's a really important thing to raise as a creator, not just to vent on, your story, etc., but actually to educate others as to how they can protect themselves, whether they be creators or not, as well as consumers. From a creator kind of point of view, they do go on in this post to actually say exactly the same things we're going to cover here. As a creator, there's only so many things you can do in our space when it comes to digital content to protect yourself. Yeah. I mean, I know, James, you don't sell brushes.
No.
But in a scenario where someone was to have downloaded your video, for example, and then upload it onto a completely different website, there's very little, as a sort of, I would call us all regular people. Obviously, you've got your plaque in the background, so you get special attention when this matters. But if you were to have your video stolen, there's very little we can do as people to say, what are you doing? I demand that you kind of take that content down. With Procreate brushes in there, you can always check the about page, the about tab in a brush. If you tap on a brush, you scroll all the way to the bottom in the brush studio, there's an about us section, and most of the time it will say that Procreate created the brush with the logo, or as Kay, I believe you referenced earlier, is that you can put your picture in there, you can sign it yourself, and you can even, put certain details there if you need to. So there's other things there that if you are someone who downloads a brush pack from somewhere, I urge you immediately just to triple check that it has been associated to the correct person, as in go into those settings, check the information there, and check to see, that it has somebody else's name, or if it has somebody else's name, please reach out to the content creator. It helps a bunch to make sure that this content stays as locked down as it can. And that's really as far as we can go, I presume, really, in terms of actually protecting ourselves. I mean, the only thing I can think of is the fact that the brushes side of it is like the only thing really that we would try to protect, but we have very limited options on it. A lot of the other stuff, such as videos and palettes, we freely distribute anyway. I guess to a degree, I'm trying to put it into like a little bit in context for like your process, James, for example. It'd be like, I guess if you created a second palette for a part 2, your extended version that you put on Patreon, and someone was to just share that out, how would you sort of feel about that? I know it's a palette and it's not so much something that you're selling, but to a degree you would be, because it would be behind your Patreon wall.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, really. For me personally, I don't tend to. The Patreon stuff that I offer is an extension of based on what I already provide for free over at YouTube, and therefore most of the things that I actually do offer as downloads don't really come with a paywall. But on principle, it's just so frustrating, isn't it? To put you. I mean, there's people that not just we have different ways of being paid. That's not only about selling brushes. We have Patreon, we sell courses, we sell whatever it is, tutorials. But there's plenty of people out there that will be just spending hours and hours and hours creating brushes, and that is their kind of model for trying to eke out a living and existence in the space. And then to have those just ripped up, and it would be one thing if people were just taking them to use them privately, and you'd never know about it anyway, would you really, if they'd managed to get their hands on it? But the idea that people are making money off your hard work is pretty galling, isn't it? I don't know what I would do in that circumstance. I mean, I'm not really in the world of creating brushes, and honestly, I'm a little bit naive on that front. I use Procreate brushes and keep it super simple, mainly because I don't really know much else. Although I know the app very well, the art and the skill of creating Procreate brushes, I've not got my head around, and I think that people that have deserve to have it monetized and deserve the recompense for having put that time and effort in. So I totally think it's wrong. And there is really something I'm planning on doing more extensive courses in the future, and I suppose if people were to get hold of something for free that should have a monetary tag attached to it, I don't know what I'd do, really. It's very difficult. We're in the kind of wild west, aren't we, of the online world where, there's not a lot of policing of it. Things can get stolen and you don't know where to turn to. I believe
it's the morality of it,
yeah,
though.
Yeah.
No? Because if you spent, it doesn't matter the value of it.
No.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there,
No,
but
it's fine.
It's the morality of it that gets me. Is it doesn't matter if you're selling a brush pack for £3 or a £5 or 20 quid, whatever. If someone made something that you knew took hours of time, and in a shop that costs £3, you're looking at that and go, wow, they put a lot of time. They're really good. I really want that. You wouldn't just grab it and walk out.
No.
Because it's digital, you can just be disguised and disappear, and no one, like you say, sometimes people would never know. And I guess there's 2 levels to it, isn't there? It's the people that take it and just keep it for themselves and just want to save a few quid or dollars. And then there's the other part of it where they go, I'm taking that. That's a really good brush pack or whatever it may be. I'm going to resell that and make money for myself. Like the morality part of it just gets me. I don't see how people can feel comfortable with
Also,
that. But I guess if you're being paid, what is it?
Also, I think if you're
Money's
trying to
everything.
build a name and a reputation for creating a product, then you're having that reputation watered down, aren't you? If somebody's stealing it and people are finding equivalent brushes that are popping up all over the place that have actually been stolen, you don't know how to attribute the original content, and find the source of it, which is bad, isn't it? I know that it's a different example, but when I see people having done, my tutorials or your tutorials, and they post it online, but they don't accredit it, and it's only a minor gripe, and it doesn't really frustrate me that much, but I understand just from that perspective, if people don't actually source where that's come from, it's a little bit, it's a bit insulting really to the original creator, isn't it? That it isn't accredited and sourced to where it's come from. People trying to pass it off as their own. And that's, aside from the monetary aspect of it. I mean, what do you feel about it, Kay?
Yeah, I just it's a lack of respect,
Mm.
and lack of respect for people's art, and the time that it takes. I was a student, I was Flow student, I'm Joel student, I followed your tutorials, James, and I think now being a creator, you really understand what goes into coming up with a concept, coming up with brushes, color palettes, the time it takes to make a video, to record a tutorial, and then to edit, and then in a heartbeat, somebody can just, steal your content, or and make money from that. It's just it's really insulting. It's bad form, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
what
the other scenario I've seen a few times pop up is someone will finish our tutorials, and I've had people send me messages and be like, "Did you know this person's selling this design on a bag or a jumper or whatever?" And it pains me because I you put that time in, and I know some people it's just they didn't even know that that's a situation of being like the intellectual property over it and the copyright of the design and so on, and they think, well, I created that and I can put it on a t-shirt. But that situation comes up far too much, that people pop it on a mug or whatever it be, and before I have to message someone and say, guys, by the way, you don't own the copyright to that, you need to take it down. And I'll scroll through the store, and there is designs I see from everybody in the Procreate space just on designs, and I go, by the way, everybody else's terms and conditions all state the same thing in the copyright, that you don't have permission to do this. And that's a situation that I see all of the time. Maybe it's just a lack of understanding of the space and the fact that the content copyright wise isn't theirs, but that's another situation that I do have to deal with probably 2 to 3 times a year, maybe.
Yeah.
Which is too much.
I think maybe some people just don't know.
Maybe.
Lack of sort of, I don't know, education. Maybe that, this video going out will help to kind of, get people thinking, say, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't, pop it on a bag and sell it. So, yeah, it's just getting that message out there, I think.
I understand from a user perspective. I think that we've got increasingly a kind of online environment where people don't expect to have to pay for anything anymore. They get the music free, they watch, movies, they find a download, a pirated version of it. And I think people think now the internet is a way of just finding stuff, sourcing it one way or another without having to pay for it. And I get it. If you're a young creator, say you're sort of 13, 14, how are you gonna payroll, how are you going to finance your creativity? And I understand it in those circumstances if it's individual users, but when it's people actually then selling it, I think it becomes another matter. I think that's a whole different situation. People have asked me, if it's okay if they can sell the versions that they've created, and I, generally speaking, I think maybe it's slightly different because the stuff that I generally teach is just like a landscape. So I imagine people printing it, having it on a little craft, like a fair, like a stall, and trying to sell it that way. And it doesn't bother me. And I say, yes, you can do that generally. But if I got the idea that it was being mass produced on, T-shirts, like you say, and it was selling hundreds and hundreds of copies of it, then I think at that point I would have something to say about it. But I've not noticed it. You'll have to point me in the direction, Joel, if you see any of my stuff anywhere. I'll be intrigued just from a purely a perspective of, is there a market for it? If anything, like I say, I'm a little bit behind the board on it. So
So we should talk about then in terms of how, as consumers, so our viewers watching this now, how you can, one, protect yourself, because to a degree there is also a risk involved here of obviously downloading content from websites that we have not put our name to, but potentially have had our face put to, or our logo or our name or to, that we don't endorse, but could be dangerous in terms of taking your financial information and anything else in that way. So a few of the ways that you could protect yourself, as well as also look after your favorite creators. If you are someone who finds something completely on a random website, my first thing that I would do is I would go to that person's Instagram. Most of us have a link tree in there, or some sort of link to a website that shows all of the content that we've got available for sale for free and whatnot, or things we want to promote. And in there, that's where you will find the direct links to everyone's content that we actually curate and we publish and we want you to enjoy. But that's the location to go and find. For example, I have a page on my website which I put in the links, and it has just like a link tree straight off to all of my things, my Gumroad, my YouTube channel, Patreon, and so on. So that would be the first thing to do. Do either of you have a link tree in your profiles? Kay, do you have one?
I do, yes. So I've got on my Instagram, I've got my link tree, and I've actually got my Patreon link directly as well. I don't have a website, but and also obviously my YouTube channel. So yeah, I've got those set up on my Instagram. Yeah.
James, you don't have it? So actually, just for context for somebody who maybe doesn't know, what a link tree is, essentially just a web page that you can, it's on a website called Linktree. You can go in there, create a profile, and then you can just add link after link after link in a long list. So it would be Linktree/JoelCreate, for example. And then I would have links to Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, so on, all the way down there. James, do you have one of those, or does it link straight off to the YouTube channel?
I did create an account. I thought maybe I'd done it, and then no, I haven't actually done it. I was looking at my Instagram now, see whether I've done it. No, I haven't. I have created. No, I haven't. I've got a couple of links on Instagram though. So I've got a link to this channel, the Sketch Wave, and also my YouTube. So yeah, I something I definitely need to do, because I think it is a great way, just creating that hub, isn't it, of connecting all of your socials and all of your whatever you do in one place. It is a good idea. I know that's something, when I looked at your Instagram, before I'd even looked into it, Joel, I noticed that you had those things linked, and it's a really good way of organizing. If someone's interested in any aspect of what you do, then it's a good way of just having an authentic place to go to check out everything else as well, isn't it?
And they work for all types of businesses as well, guys, as well. Like, we're not endorsed by Linktree in any way. It's not a sponsored segment, but if they want to get involved, you're more than welcome. Drop us an email. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Is that it, like you said, it creates a hub, and it creates that like a roundabout in the middle where people come in from YouTube and then they want to fire off to Instagram, or any direction they want to go in, or find where the apps that they use primarily, they want to follow you on those. So I would urge anybody in any business to create a link tree, even on your website. Like I said, just a real simple page. Some people really overcomplicate, and it's really not that. It's not essentially what they're meant to be used for. It's just like through to that secure place, off to that other location, because I know that's their official Instagram and that's their official Facebook and so on. So yeah, definitely check your content creators' links in their bios. Most people, as I said, will link off to their content that they create. It's also important to check in with the creator as well. If you see something on a website that you're not too sure looks 100%, or you've never heard them mention it, please reach out to your favorite content creators. It would not be in any way a frustrating message to receive. It would be just great to have I've had it multiple times, is what I'm trying to say, is that, and it's great to know that your community's got your back as well, that they see it available somewhere else and go, Joel's not got a page on here, or he's not selling t-shirts, other than, on his actual Shopify store, which again, I'll leave linked in the description down below. Shameless plug, but to make sure you've got your back. So please reach out to your favorite content creators if you do see their content on a website that you don't think looks legit, and just keep an eye out for that kind of stolen content, as well as stories. As I mentioned earlier, like seeing Flo numerous times on her stories say this. This page has stolen our content. Please do not go to this website. And I think if that website was doing all right and they see a content creator of scale like that say, don't ever use this website, the damage it must do has got to be like not worth the effort. But then I guess money, depending on how much they've banked at that point, potentially it does. It's an odd one. But we this is nicely summarized in this final kind of line here, which I've highlighted from the post, which says, while we discuss AI stealing from artists, we forget that humans steal from each other as well, which I think is just perfectly summarizes this on a human level, to be like, it's just not right to do that. And it's the time, as what Kay was saying earlier, for me, it's the time you put in on the back end of, the hours coming up with the idea to then record it again, or practice it even once, like I do, record it again to then, if your video is going to be stolen, for example. Sometimes I've thought about in the past about Patreon content and whether or not, if that not so much got leaked, but like somebody tried to do something, as we've kind of discussed, like it would be quite upsetting to see that kind of thing. But I guess to them, they don't really give a damn. It's an awkward point. Have you guys got any sort of other points on this one that you think you would advise consumers? Kay, have you got any other bits that you would say?
Oh, I think you touching on the community reaching out to us, I think that's a really good way, because there's loads, right? There's loads of people following our tutorials, so we can't really catch everything. So that's really helpful to us. As a consumer, it's, go directly to source, obviously support your artist. If they're sending stuff on their websites or like your Spotify, just go directly to source, or reputable sites. And I think we've got this design space, I think it was. Which ones was it? The website.
The different websites, was it?
Yes.
You've got vet creators such Creative Market and Design Cuts.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, so just those trusty websites that you can go to. And,
there's a number of websites that, as you were sort of referring to there, that they actually go through a confirmation process with creators to validate that they are who they say they are, so that then they approve their stores. So that's where a lot of those ones have the artist in mind straight away. But to be honest, a lot of the time they don't end up on those types of sites. They usually end up on like an Etsy. Again, as we went back to the beginning, you wouldn't steal something from a shop.
No.
And it's quite painful to see that many brushes in a chat. Well, yeah, that's true.
But then
that's true.
It's different, isn't it? I mean, the world is a big place, and I think that I can be relatively forgiving in the context of the whole world. There are going to be people that just, I find this a difficult thing to balance out. And if people can afford an iPad and afford Procreate, and you think, well, therefore you should be able to afford to buy any extra things, because it's not like you need extra brushes, is it really? I mean, my tutorials just rely upon the Procreate brushes. So, and I get by without having to use any extra brushes. They're a nice extra thing. You can make some effects really quite nicely, but it's not absolutely essential, is it, to have all the extra things? So it's a difficult one. And I guess some people would plead poverty, and I get that. Not everyone's got the spare cash. But then they don't need to be creating on Procreate either, do they? I suppose is the argument. It's a luxury activity, and actually you can do quite a lot with the app without spending any extra money. But if you want to have that luxury of more refined brushes and specific to certain textures and other things, and it's like anything else. If you want the luxury of more options, then it comes with a price tag normally, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I find it a difficult one to balance, really, because I kind of went into YouTube initially thinking everything's for free, just give it away for free and let it build. But I now coming to a point where I'm starting to think, well, perhaps I should offer some premium extra things like courses, and that's coming up in the future. And yeah, I would be a bit gutted if they were stolen. So it's fine to be broad and open minded about it when it's not your stuff being stolen, really, isn't it? I think.
I guess for you right now, none of your content necessarily is out there that's not free to a degree. Obviously, the extended version, that you're on Patreon, but like to a degree, if someone downloaded your video off of YouTube and uploaded it onto a different platform, are they just promoting it? Because again, like you said, it's out there for free anyway. Would you just see it as additional promotion, or would you be like, wait a second?
I have been contacted by various people who say that there's big channels over in China, for example, where YouTube isn't allowed in the same way that it is here. And a lot of the Western world, and they say that if they reposted it over in China, you'd reach a bigger audience, and blah blah blah. And I haven't given permission for it, but I've no doubt that it's out there. I've no doubt that they've managed to make copies of it, and it is, on various different channels in places where YouTube isn't a thing. But it's very hard to measure the impact that could in any way have upon you as a creator, financially or otherwise, because it seems so remote and far away from what we do in our little space. So yeah, of course it's a major problem. I think if you were doing it as your full-time thing, or even, you work full-time and it's an extra thing to try and just give yourself a slightly better quality of life, it's not right. It's not right that people take things without permission. I understand that people have where that mentality comes from, especially online, but it still doesn't make it right. And I think we probably would be preaching to the converted. I think most people that follow us avidly on YouTube and are our biggest sort of champions and supporters absolutely believe in supporting us financially or whatever. So we're lucky in that sense, as the majority of people that do watch us and follow us are behind us and wouldn't want us to lose out. But there must be people out there that haven't got the same presence, and they're just more anonymous, and they're creating products and they're just having it stolen. It's pretty outrageous, really, from their perspective, isn't
it? There's also the point, and I guess this is why it kind of riles me up a little bit, and because for me, there's a stage I'm trying to get to. There's a stage where it's like the content creation exceeds my income from my day job, and it be an avenue as a career and a lifestyle, essentially, that's very different. When I say lifestyle, we're not going to be turning up with gold chains every week, but what I mean is that the being able to sit and curate content all day, every day, and that is the sole purpose of your week, to create the content. And I think for me, having that fire in me to want to achieve that and that goal and that objective, if I was to see my content ripped from somewhere else, and I saw that the same brush set that I created that I was selling for a $5, let's say, had sold 10,000 units on another website, I'd have to have a really ice cold shower, I tell you, because I'd be boiling, and my blood would be boiling over it. But when you look at that, you're not thinking that it's not about the money. It's not about the money, but it's what that would give you. And as I said, that open opportunity to do that as your career, not necessarily the actual value that had been taken from you. But if I saw that, like I said, it's career damaging to a degree if it's something that's been taken away from you that could have got you there faster. Okay, definitely. I'm sure you agree with me on that point, for sure.
And I mean, it's soul destroying as well, I think. The money side of it obviously is an issue, but it's just that kind of, you kind of take it a bit personally. I would take it personally, and it just, it would kind of leave a bad taste in my mouth, for sure. But I mean, there isn't any sort of regulation though on this, is there? I mean, it's so difficult. So we do rely on the community to kind of keep an eye out for it. And if they do spot something like that, or any of us spot something like that, we should maybe, say, hey, this isn't really a good thing that you guys are doing here, maybe shame them a little bit. So might get them thinking, I don't know. But in an ideal world, everything will be nice and fair, but it is an element that we have to kind of come to terms with as well. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I would take it personally, and I would have to take several cold showers, I'm sure.
I think the other thing to remember is that, and I want to try and wrap this up on a bit more of a positive note, because to be honest, it just allowed me to rant for nearly 45 minutes to nearly 50. But it's more, I want to wrap it up by saying that if we take a look at this in terms of a percentage, it's absolutely, it's really tiny compared to the views we see every single week on our channels, the actual people that, like you say, follow us. There are so many people that want to support you and, obviously want to grab your content that you want to make, whether it be t-shirts or brushes or whatever it may be, or additional tutorials on Patreon, that kind of stuff. They want to support you because obviously they enjoy your content and want to be a step further into that community. And that's what I think I love the most is I've been sent pictures of people that have purchased like t-shirts or, send me pictures with the t-shirts on and being like, oh, look what turned up today. And I love that. And it's the same with the brushes. You see them download the brushes straight away in my Discord. The next day I'll see people, if I upload a new set, it's just like, oh, here's what I created with your paint collection or whatever it may be. And it's awesome to see. And they love it. And they love the opportunities that it gives them. And that still, we've said multiple times sometimes in this space that it's really easy to try and kind of emphasize the negative over the positive, but there are so many positive comments we get week in, week out from people. I've said before, or have I said it on the show? I can't remember. What I do is every time I get like a really lovely comment, I had one yesterday, a really lovely comment, I'll screenshot it every time, I'll crop it, and then I'll put it in a folder in my on my phone in an album called Motivation, and then I'll go take a look at that and I can scroll through all of these lovely comments that I've had over the years of people, and I love it. It's one of the best things to take a look at because, okay, go on.
I just fester on the negative ones. No.
James is a realist. I tried to be optimistic. It's good fun though. It's good fun. This is an awesome conversation as always. Kay, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of the Sketch Wave. Really appreciate you taking the time to come join us. As always, there'll be links to all of our socials in the description down below. I'm just going to very quickly grab my phone because, James, we had a target, didn't we, of 1,000 subscribers, and at the time of recording, we're on 999.
I'm hoping
the goal
it won't
was
go
set for
backwards in
Halloween.
the next week or so. We should be over 1,000, shouldn't we?
Please do not do that. But we should hit 1,000 by the next time we record. But just as a massive thank you anyway to all of your support. We really appreciate it. Again, links to all of our content will be in the description down below. All of Kay's links will be in the description down below. Thank you for watching. We'll be back again next Tuesday and we'll see you in the next one.